Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm doing another review for TokuStation, and today I'll be taking a look at Power Rangers Beast Morphers episodes 2, 3, and 4. And before we begin, let me talk about some of the names of the episodes. So, episode 2 is Evox's Revenge, episode 3 is End of the Road, and episode 4 is Digital Deception. So, I talked about this obviously 3 weeks ago, seeing that as episode 4. I talked about the first episode, and I really enjoyed what I had seen, and I was a little bit worried it was going to kind of go downhill from here. Actually, I don't think it did. I think that yes, while some episodes are better than others, and I'll talk about what's my favorite episode towards the end of this review, I do think that overall I was very impressed with what I saw because I was just very worried after the first episode. Usually, first episodes are a lot better, just in general compared to the series overall. Usually until the last few, not even just the Power Rangers thing, just in general. And of course, they usually get the most budget because usually the producers see how much, hear how much they need. They then give that amount of money, and if it's not used, the next season it's considered, the money isn't looked at as if it was a necessity, and then they bring the amount of money that's needed down, and all of a sudden, the writers of the show, anyone else working on the show says, oh no, but we actually do need that money this time. So they try to use as much money as they ask for, and you definitely saw a lot of budget in the first episode, but being used there. But even in 2, 3, and 4, maybe it's just me, maybe my Sentai glasses are not on, are not what they once were, but it did, to me anyway, seem as if they filmed brand new footage across the board. And other than the mecha footage, there was nothing that was being used from other than of course the suits to refilm. There was nothing being used of Go Busters, other than again a few shots here and there that are probably not mecha related. But, and maybe I'm wrong here. Again, it's been a while since I've seen Go Busters. Go Busters came out in, what was it? 2011? 2012? That's a while ago. So it's been a while, but it does seem as if they are filming a lot. Like they're filming a lot of new footage. And I think it's amazing to see how they put everything together because I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'll bring it up now. The fact that there's no quick cuts from punches, very reminiscent of what happened in like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2, where you're like, wait a minute, hold on, that fist is a different Ranger suit's fist or something like that. Probably a bit harder to tell during the, Tube TV days, much smaller televisions, but still, when you look at that, you're like, hey, wait a minute, that's not the right hand. In this case, it seemed like there was none of that. Obviously, there were cuts to stunt actors and things like that, but I have to say, the three actors for the Rangers, the main three Rangers, I did not realize that they were going to be this proficient in stunt work and things like that. I mean, nothing against them and nothing against past Rangers, but, sometimes, maybe this is me looking at it from a Sentai perspective, but sometimes you'll get like a standard punch or kick, but you don't really get much else, and then they don't even try to hide it via another stunt actor. They just have them transform, and then of course you have a suit actor in there. In this case, though, it did seem like yes, there were cuts to other stunt actors, but I was pleasantly surprised with what they did in episodes 2, 3, and 4 with the main actors. And speaking of the main actors, the actor for Blue, last time I said that he was the weakest in terms of the way he performed the role in episode 1. But I have to say, I have to give credit where credit's due. In 2, 3, and 4, you can definitely see that he is starting to become more familiar with the role, being more familiar with the set, if you will. That's also something very hard for newer actors to be able to kind of familiarize yourself, not just with the role, but with interacting with the world around you. And I think the only a little issue that I have is maybe it's more of it's not really a him thing, it's just a general thing. So here's the thing that I don't have a problem with. I'm happy that he's the one delivering puns. It doesn't seem like we have Red or Yellow also giving puns. It's just him giving puns to the monster. That Monster of the Week, that I enjoy. But it does seem like, I'm not saying he needs to be wackier with it, but he seems very stoic for puns. And just his character in general seems very stoic to be presenting puns like this. And that's nothing against him personally. It's just, it's something that I just have picked up on. I'm happy that it's one person doing it, but he I wouldn't have picked him as Pun Man, but hey, man, he's Pun Man. That's okay. Also, not speaking of puns, this is a completely separate topic altogether. We were introduced to the U.S. Buddy Roys. There was no transition for that, to the U.S. Buddy Roys, and I don't remember what their English name is. So I know they're not Buddy Roys. I'll remember that next time. But what I do think is awesome is how both the voice actors and the writers really captured these characters. It feels like I'm watching. I know that I am watching technically a U.S. adaptation of Go Busters, but I like when a U.S. show, yes, it does its own thing. I really love what RPM did, but I also like when they do take certain aspects of the Japanese version and kind of Americanize it, but not in a way that becomes jelly donuts. So in this case, when I looked at Jax, I know some people might say, oh, he has a New York accent, but I gotta say, thinking of the Japanese version, I forgot his name. Was it Usada? I think it was Usada. He definitely seemed like he would have a New York accent, a bit higher pitched, maybe not so much like Roger Rabbit, although God, he used to say Roger Rabbit of the Japanese version, but still, that just came back to me, memories flowing. But I do enjoy what they did with him, what they did with, not Nick, what they did with the, I forgot his name, but the red bike, and of course what they did with the gorilla as well. Again, their voices just worked, and I have to really give credit to those actors and the writers for just translating that, but not in a way that it seems like it's a slave to the Japanese version. Because again, with Jax's U.S. voice, it wasn't technically, it's not a 1-to-1 New York accent, of course, but it's just something about it just seems right, and I really do enjoy it. Also, something that I don't even have in my notes, I really enjoy the set that they have for this digital realm that the avatars are trapped in with Scrozzle. And I think the reason why I enjoy it so much is it's very minimalist, very Twilight Zone-esque. If you guys remember that episode, if you've ever seen Twilight Zone, the original, if you haven't, you really should. The one where, I'll just say the famous line, "There was so much time now." It kind of looks like around the ruins of that library. So it's kind of interesting, and I hope this world gets looked into in the future, and it's not just the base for these villains. But I do like that it's a different realm altogether, simply due to the fact that you do sometimes in Power Rangers, you sit back, and I know suspension of disbelief, but you sit back and you think, why is one side not invading the other side's territory just to take them down? And in this case, yes, you sort of have the avatars trying to do that, at least trying to get more effects in some way or another. But in the other, side of things, they can't go to that world, right? Our Rangers can't go to this digital realm, and that's awesome. So I'm very happy that they were able to do something like that. It solves that issue, or, that question that usually comes up very frequently in a Power Rangers show, or even a Super Sentai show as well. So, speaking of Scrozzle, that is such a weird name. It just feels odd. It feels dirty. I don't like saying Scrozzle, but I'm going to say it because it's his name. So he's a U.S. exclusive villain. It's been years since I've seen a U.S. exclusive villain. Super happy that he exists. But what I love about the suit, too, I don't know who they went to exactly. I'm sure they talked to Toei, but I don't know who, on Toei worked on the suit or anything like that. But it seems like it is a suit that is right out of Go Busters, or right out of a Super Sentai. And that's what's awesome, because, look, I love Lord Zed. I love his suit. But I think his suit, it was too frightening. It was too metal. I love it, but it was something that it didn't seem like it fit into that version of Super Sentai. Granted, I've only seen 10 episodes, maybe almost 15 of Zyuranger, and I've done reviews on it as well, doing more reviews in the near future. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe Lord Zed would have fit in perfectly in Zyuranger, but it seemed like he was even too much, even for that show to go for. And I know some people are going to be like, but Matt, Satan exists within the show in some form or another. And I know, but still, I don't know. Something about Zed just looks like a lot. He looks like, I love him. And I love the design. It's brilliant. But it just doesn't seem like it fits with Rita and with some of the other things that were, the other characters that existed in the adaptation. But when looking at this character, looking at Scrozzle, he just fits. And I would love for the suit to be reused on the Japanese side of things in the future. Hopefully, if there is a Go Busters 10 years after, not too sure. I've heard that Go Busters wasn't that popular in Japan, but I hope if there is some kind of reunion of some sort or something along those lines, they do use this suit, because I would hate for this suit to just be left in a vault somewhere and never used again after this season. Also, of course, the character, I'm sure many of you out there are going to say that it reminds you of Finster. Same here. One thing that I want to say, though, about his voice actor for Scrozzle, his name is Campbell Cooley. Now, I don't know who Campbell Cooley is, but what I do know is he's been working on Power Rangers with, on the show for a while. I mean, he has been in every show as a voice actor for some villain. I don't know if all of them were big or not, because I haven't seen every show for a very long time now. But he's been in every show since SPD. That's a lot. And that's awesome that he's doing this, because, nothing against other actors who, work on the show and then go off and do other things. But it's just really nice to have someone who you can say, oh, hey, that's, so-and-so. And they're, they come back and to do more roles. Same thing with the actor that was, I don't remember his name, but I think he voices over Nick, or the Red Bike in this season. I'm pretty sure he has worked on multiple seasons of Power Rangers over the last, maybe also 5 to 10 years. And the reason why I find this awesome is because, just like with, when you look at Tokusatsu in Japan, especially stuff like Godzilla, go back and watch those Godzilla movies and look at the cast list, and you'll realize that randomly, from movie to movie, you'll have one actor come back to play a completely different character, sometimes a major character, sometimes a minor character, and we're all supposed to just accept it. Like, yeah, no, they're within this Tokusatsu sphere, it's not so much a movie universe like the Marvel universe or the Monster universe, but it still is some kind of sense of community, if you will, with the actors that do Tokusatsu. So I'm happy that we have that here with Power Rangers as well, and it's not just cameos and cameos and cameos from the from the same characters. While I love cameos, I love crossovers and stuff like that, it's nice to have an actor come back, not so much a character come back for each and every show. Now, Scrozzle mentioned someone named something like Vargoyle. I don't know who that is, and I tried to do research to find out who in the hell Vargoyle is. I'm wondering if that's foreshadowing, and now I'm concerned because Power Rangers can't start doing foreshadowing. No, talking about things that might appear in other episodes, blasphemous. Power Rangers needs to just treat this like it's a quote-unquote kids show. That's sarcasm for all of you who cannot detect what sarcasm is, and it's fine if you can't, but that's sarcasm. I don't actually believe that. Please don't murder me in the comment section down below. Speaking of, this is not a transition, speaking of Red being the leader, I'm really happy that he was the leader, but I did not expect it. But it's also, I'm happy because it feels as if anyone can be the leader, even though it's one of those things where, like, but Matt, he was red, so he was always going to be the de facto leader. But it's nice because when looking at the argument that Blue and Yellow had throughout the episode, it's good that they were able to step back, realize their own faults, and then be able to say, no, I think Red actually has a cooler head than us. He was also training with them earlier in the episode, so they do have, even though Blue has the most training, obviously, his mom being running the whole operation, but still it is nice to see that those two were able to take a step back and realize, you know what? Devin is clearly our leader in all of this. He's definitely the one that we need to go to. And to be fair, Devin's character did actually go around and definitely made moves in not only this episode, but in the later two as well. And definitely, in my opinion, was able to come off as a leader much more than the other two. Again, they were arguing, even though they all have, what's interesting is they all have, in my opinion, characteristics that could call them the leader. So this is what I was hoping, even though I'm happy that Red's a leader, I was hoping that all three of them were going to step back and say, hey, we're actually a team, there is no leader. Now, I know this is a pseudo military operation, so the thought is there has to be some leader necessarily, but even though I do like what Red is doing, he's not going to be in a war room drawing up battle plans and other types of strategies. This is Power Rangers. So I feel as if having this mentality of, no, we're a team, teamwork matters, I think that may have been a better moral just over the idea that, no, Red has to be the leader. Or I was hoping that Blue was going to be the leader simply due to the fact that he knows more. even though he's not able to apply it better, clearly, his mom being in charge, yes, you can argue nepotism, but she was asking them to choose their leader, which was also nice too, because it wasn't like she is coming in and getting involved in their dynamic, also conflict of interest, because again, her son is on the team. So it's nice that the boss, the head honcho, she didn't just point at one of them and say, you're our leader now. It wasn't about pitting them against each other. It was about having them understand their own faults and their own pros and cons about themselves, and their strengths and weaknesses, and think, oh, you know what, actually, so-and-so is better, or maybe I'm better, or yada yada. And then it came out to be that Red is the leader. Also, speaking of faults, I'm happy that they brought in some of the stuff from Go Busters. Albeit some of it was odd, looking at the fact that Yellow, because of her Jackrabbit DNA, she has to eat carrots. I know it's a common trope, and old tropes die hard, but that actually isn't true. So if you do have a rabbit, or you want to get a rabbit, want to get a little tiny cute bunny, first of all, don't get it around Easter. I know we're coming up on Easter. Don't get it around Easter. Bunnies are not a toy. They're real living creatures. Also, don't just feed it carrots. Lettuce is actually better for it than carrots. So it needs a good diet. It doesn't just need carrots. And because this is a show that is intended for kids as well, I am a little worried kids are not going to realize that it's like some funny thing that people have been talking about for years and think that it actually is the truth. So if you have kids, if you're watching this with your kids, just remind them, well, first of all, thank you for listening in. Just remind them to not simply feed a bunny or a rabbit carrots. That's not going to work. That's TV land. So, oh God, Power Rangers may one day be on TV land, depending on how old. Good God, we're old. Anyway, so, side note, I love how Technobabble actually helped the episode out with all of you just have to, cool down and don't look at a dog. And yes, that's Technobabble for Power Rangers. And I loved it because you watch something like Doctor Who, and I love Doctor Who, but man, they just say stuff in a certain order, and it sounds fancy, and I nod, and then the episode happens, and then they win. That's Doctor Who. Not all the time, I know, but that can be Doctor Who. So I was happy that they had that here with Nate. Also happy that it seems as if this show really is an ensemble. I know Power Rangers is meant to be an ensemble show, but it doesn't seem like there is a one point where a character who's been introduced isn't talking or isn't doing something. And yes, of course, you could say that Devin's dad really isn't around as much, simply due to the fact that he's the mayor, so he has to, do his damn job. Episode 3, he showed up, which is nice, end of the road, but he's not, I don't remember him being in episode 2 or episode 4, but that's okay, because, again, his dad's the mayor, he's kind of busy. But what I do enjoy is the fact that when you look at the comic relief, which is Ben and Betty, yes, they're comic relief. Yes, at the end of the episode, everyone has to go, ah, ha, 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 over some shenanigans. But they are really part of this show, and it makes me happy because, I'm not against comic relief in Power Rangers, but it does seem like sometimes it feels as if comic relief characters can be filmed in a completely different state. Or maybe even in the U.S. when the Power Rangers are being filmed in New Zealand. What? Has that ever happened? Perhaps. And you sit there and you're like, okay, so this is nice, but can there be some type of interaction? They're on the same show. This shouldn't seem like a weird cutaway gag, like, we're on Monty Python or something like that. Granted, love Monty Python, but different forms of media. So, different types of media, rather. So, in this case, I really do enjoy the fact that Ben and Betty can actually come in and also help fight some of those weird, I think they were called Tronics, fight the Tronics. And yes, it was very short-lived, but still, I'm so happy that they don't, even though people are laughing, it seems like they're laughing with them and not at them. And the reason why I like that is because, look, yes, Bulk and Skull, when everyone thinks of comedy tag team duo, you're gonna think of Bulk and Skull, but they, of course, obviously, were huge jerks. So it makes sense that you want to laugh at them because they were trying to pick on the Rangers every episode, yet I'm pretty sure there were episodes where they said, man, the Power Rangers are so cool, and it's like, if only you knew. But still, so you have Bulk and Skull picking on the Rangers, so it makes sense as to why you want to laugh at them. But in this case, you are laughing, but you still don't want the characters to be treated poorly. Like, they're not, they don't know as much as the Rangers. They're not Rangers, but that does not mean that they should be laughed at and we should be like, haha, look at the, I used to be, I've talked about this before. I used to be a heavy kid growing up. So I don't want it to just devolve into, look at the fatty. Because, and also, funnily enough, and I used to be short, still am short. So I don't want it to be like, look at the fatty and look at the short girl. It doesn't seem like the humor thus far is surrounding either his weight or her height. And I think that's amazing to show because, look, it's about their wacky personalities. Sure, don't get me wrong. But it's not. It seems like everyone's laughing together and not specifically at them, which is a great lesson for kids watching and really anyone who's watching. Just don't be a jerk. So, that's the moral of this episode. Don't be a jerk. As if some people are like, why does he have to say that out loud? And then they go on the internet and they're like, oh, that's why he has to say that out loud. Speaking of some characters with some personality, really happy to see personality from the evil avatars. So it comes off as they're not just Evox drones. They're actually corrupted versions of themselves. And of course we see that later with them having their memory still intact and of course using that to their advantage. Very good tactical move. Terrible. They're evil. Stop being evil, but it's a great tactical move, so I enjoy seeing that from both Roxy and Blaze. So it's nice to see because it is, sometimes with a show like this, you'll have a situation where it's like, oh no, they're evil now, and they just completely forget their memories. And look, mind wipe can happen, that's fine. I mean, that's the basis of the original Kamen Rider, and I love that, but it's nice to be able to see them understand that they are still in a sense themselves but a corrupted evil version. So it's not just like, I don't know who Ravi is, I don't know who any of you are, beep boop up. They're not robots. They're code, but they're not robots. So that was pretty cool. So moving on to episode 3, which was titled End of the Road, which was clearly titled by Ravi, Morphex powered bikes were the topic of this episode. And what could go wrong with Morphex powered bikes except everything? However, I would like to say, on a serious note, I think this is the best season to bring up things like renewable energy. Some people are going to want to click out. I'm not trying to talk about politics with you guys. It's just that this is the one episode, or not one episode, the one season that to me really makes sense that they would talk about things like renewable energy, because literally they talked about it in the first episode, Morphex can power everything. Why would you not talk about that as a renewable energy source? So I really appreciated that. And some people might say, but Matt, wasn't RPM another good season for that as well in a sense? At least looking at, the Japanese counterpart Goranger, and that's true, but when looking at the RPM side of things, they were kind of dealing with an apocalypse, so that was numero uno on the agenda. So in this case, they're not dealing with an apocalypse necessarily, so it is nice to be able to see them talk about things like this, because again, just it's a good thing to teach, right? So hey, renewable energy, it's not like it's not like this episode ever said we must destroy coal or anything like that. They're just saying that hey, in our world we have something called Morphex. It is available to use. Why do we need to pollute the environment when we could just use Morphex? And I think that's a great discussion to have, especially in a show like this, because they're not going to go heavy-handed with it. It was just a simple, it's not like they're probably going to ever mention Morphex bikes ever again, because that's usually how a series like this works, but it was still a nice thing to bring up, and again, it just makes sense. So, moving on to, Yellow's mom is the reporter that we've been seeing. I've been seeing the reporter, and I'm like, all right, that's cool, that's nice, but why? Yes, she's reporting on the news and everything, but why are we seeing her as much? Didn't think about her being Yellow's mom. I just thought, when I think of heroes in Tokusatsu in general, I just assume that Yellow was an orphan. I just thought she was an orphan. I know that's not, no punchline there, no boom. I just thought that she was an orphan. We're watching a television show. We barely ever see Ranger's parents. Even when we hear that they have, it's funny. Usually in the Japanese side of things, it's just they're either orphans or we don't talk about it. Here in Power Rangers, usually I see people mention it. Oh yes, my mom and dad are at home. But for some reason, I'm never going to go home. And then when they do go home, they just don't see mom and dad. And it's like, Okay, granted, mom and dad could be at work, but it's like it's 9 p.m. Where's mom and dad? So in this case, it is nice to be able to not see their parents and also see them being very supportive, because we see Devin's dad not talking to him as much. Although to be fair, Devin doesn't seem like he wants to talk to his dad as much, but his uncool old dad. But it is nice to see that his dad is so willing to be a politician. That I know I said I wasn't going to get political, but I just have to mention this because there's a politician in this. Being a politician that's working for the people. Who knew? Frankly, all Evox has to do is just fund his political campaign, and maybe they'll take over the world that way. I don't know why Evox has to do this whole let's destroy the world. Just run it through campaign donations. I mean, come on. I don't know. I guess, yeah, I mean, this show is supposed to take place, I assume, in America, but that's not very American to me. Either way, oh dear God, we've gone off the rails. Either way, so I was shocked that Yellow's mom was the reporter, and it was just mentioned so casually, like I was supposed to know. Like, oh, come on, mom. And I'm like, that's actually a Shyamalanian twist right there. But it also makes sense as to why she was just randomly filming her. I'm like, I don't think you should legally film her without her mom's consent when she's talking about the Morphex bikes. And I was like, oh, wait, no, you're her mom. That is your consent. Yes. Okay, fair. So, and something else. So even though I'm talking about happy things like the parents being supportive, like Yellow's mom about her idea, and of course Red's dad, who's also a politician, or the mayor, about her idea, I have to say I love how the writers behind this thought, okay, so they're going to be happy and go, and want to help and work with the teenagers and do right by them, but random everyday townsfolk, they're going to be terrible people, because it just, someone who's a New Yorker, it just felt as if when Yellow handed that guy that flyer and he immediately threw it in the trash, I thought, my people, I'm home. So it's kind of nice to be able to see that, because it just felt real. Because sometimes, and even though yes, for a little bit later, they did the whole joke of, wow, that double bike is so cool, and I get it, but it was for humor's sake. But I love that when things were serious, they didn't make it so that everyone was like, oh my God, yes, I would love to take this. Of course. Why would I not? It's like, no, that's not real life. Real life is, well, does it have a place I could put my coffee? And it's like, shut up. But it's true. That's what people are going to say. Can I put my coffee in here? Oh, that's not cool. It's like, all right, kid, go back to Fortniting. Stop it. Why are you even outside? Go play Fortnite. So like, oh, Mondo, cool. It's like, stop talking. But still, although again, it was really funny when he sees the double bike and he's like, now that's cool. I was like, God damn it. Anyway, very 80s cool guy, mentality, very 80s cool guy aesthetic. Speaking of orphans, even though he's not an orphan, he may as well be. Nate, who has basically said, hey, it's like I have a family now, which reminds me, I'm not crying, you're crying. Because dear God, like the actor, he played that off like really well. Like I think his fellow actors and actresses should kind of check if he's okay. Because I was sitting there and I'm like, he really does sound like he's alone. Is he good? Are you guys good? You should check in on him every now and again. But no, it was just, he did a really good job. Very sad. But it makes sense. I mean, child super genius has parents who are very successful, so they don't get to see him as often. That just makes sense. But again, it's nice to be able to show that, especially to the kids watching, that you can have a family that isn't your family, right? So you can, come together with people who are friends of yours, and you can have this second family, and clearly his character has found that, and that's awesome. Also, something that I noticed that did appear in episode 4 as well, little crushy crush there on Yellow, which, my God, I thought we were going to have the pining of Ravi and, to Roxy and the Avatar and all that stuff. I thought that was going to be the case. I didn't think we'd have Nate be interested in Yellow. I mean, obviously, why would he not be? But I just didn't see it coming. I was like, oh my God, we have romance here. And it's not overdone. It's something that's, I don't want to say it's subtle necessarily, because yes, we do see Nate picking up the flowers in the beginning of the episode. Yes, we do see him hiding behind towards the end, but we see it. It's not like it's something that isn't mentioned, but it is still something that I think is nice, that it isn't seemingly at this point affecting them also as at work either. So I do like that. I like that there's a lot going on there, and that it's not toxic in any way. It's just, hey, he kind of has a little crush, and he got her flowers for Valentine's Day, but he's obviously shy, so he's not going to tell her. And then we're probably going to hopefully expand on that in the future, but I don't think, the way the show has been written so far, I don't think we're going to write it so that there's going to be some major conflict with the two of them later. And I hope not, because I don't, look, they don't have to get together or anything, but I hope that it's amicable. Like, I hope that if there is something being, so he gets turned down, it isn't some like, and then Nate ran away, and then, oh no, he was kidnapped by Evox. Like, I hope that they still keep it within non-drama realms, because I just think that looking at the way this show is, just this show, not even this season, just in general, just with Power Rangers, I don't think it'll suit them well if they go into heavy drama mode with the two of them. I think that you can argue that the drama is already there with Ravi, and the fact that he's in love with someone who is now an evil avatar. Totally happens. Typical Tuesday in anyone's world, really. I mean, why am I even mentioning it? It's just so normal for everyone to experience that. But it's just something that I hope the drama stays there. And with Nate and with Yellow, it's a lot more pure and just very chill. And again, if nothing comes from it, i.e. he rejects her. Oh my God, could you imagine? Just pushes his anime glasses up. I'm sorry, but I'm just... I've outgrown you. But if Yellow rejects him, I think that's fine, just so long as it's done in a way that I think is just, again, a general learning experience. Maybe even for some of the adults watching who need to maybe take rejection a little bit better. What? Did I just say that out loud? Oh, no. Either way, though, I have to say, I enjoyed seeing all that stuff built up with Nate and Yellow. Hopefully we see more of it in the future. What I was also very interested in seeing is how the monster, at least in episode 3, was taken down with ease. And I mean with ease, guys. Like, that was done a lot faster than I thought it would. And yes, of course, they introduced, like, the beta monster, and it did do its thing. And of course, you had the mech out there. But I do wonder if... I don't know if they're going to make a second season of Go Busters. It's listed on Wikipedia, but I don't know if it's been confirmed that the second season will be Go Busters. So if they do have footage to burn, mech footage, not mech footage, although maybe mech footage too, but if they have footage or suits to burn, might as well just have an episode where maybe more than one villain gets taken out. That would be very interesting to see in the future. If maybe two villains work together that didn't originally, then they split up, and then we see them exploding separately in separate locations that are totally not Japanese footage. Please don't look at that sign. It's not in Japanese. It's in Evoxian. I don't know, but still, I do wonder if they're going to do something like that in the future, if they have more footage to burn, because remember in Go Busters, they had a lot of scenes that were out of suit. So of course, yes, they do have to film a lot of out of suit scenes, which they have been doing, obviously. But with me, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, with me seeing that it looks as if most of the footage, even the fight footage, is brand new. I'm wondering what they're going to be doing with the monsters of the week every week, because again, they're going to have, let me think, maybe like 40 some odd monsters. But if you're only doing 16 to 20 episodes, and you're not going to do season 2 with the Beast Morpher powers, which again, that's just an assumption on my end, you have footage to burn through. I mean, heck, even if you do 40 episodes, you still have a few monsters to play with, assuming that it wasn't... I don't think Go Busters was a two-parter show. I don't remember if it was, because certain Sentai are two-parters, so you don't have as much footage to play with, as many monsters to play with. But in this case, I'm wondering. I don't know if Go Busters was a two-parter Sentai or not. If you guys remember if it was or not, and you're watching this through our TG Productions YouTube channel, please comment down below. Okay, so now we're at the point of episode 3 where I have to talk about the brand new hit video game coming to Xbox. Yes, that's right, the original Xbox near you, Power Rangers BMX. I saw this preview before I saw the episode, because they'll release previews on their YouTube channel. I think it's Power Rangers Official or something like that. But still, I saw it earlier, and I just wonder if Blaze's actor put bike riding under special skills, and on special skills section of his resume. And after doing that, they were like, that's really cool. After hiring him, they said, maybe we could have a scene where you're riding a bike. And he said, "Oh, of course, I can do that." And then cuts to like a montage of him trying to learn a bike within one weekend while sobbing hysterically. I'm curious. That's all. Just a little curious because sometimes people put special skills that might not be they might not be so specially skilled in. But either way, though, I have to say he was definitely especially skilled in that because I cannot ride a bike for poop, and I gotta say he can ride a bike for poop. No, it works one way, it doesn't work the other way. Either way, he can ride a bike really damn well, much better than I can. I cannot ride a bike. Someone who lives in New York, I just don't leave my house everywhere. Literally, I just don't leave. But when I do, I take mass transit. So I don't have the need personally for a bike, or at least the part of New York that I'm in, I don't have a need for a bike or a car. But hey, he can ride a bike really well, especially in that spandex. Like, that should be its own subsection of the skill, like bike riding, but in this outfit. It's like, oh, wow, all right, damn. Marvel just knocks on his door. What if, like, I don't know if there's a bike riding superhero. I mean, if there was a live action One Punch Man, he could be Mugen Rider, or Moomin Rider. No, I forgot the name of the rider. Obviously, joke on Kamen Rider, though. Either way, though, he could be that character if there's a live-action One Punch Man ever. Something before we move on to talking about episode 4. I'm a bit confused as to why the Power Rangers are considered a secret. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, but Matt, it's a military operation, or pseudo-military operation. Of course, that's why it's a secret. But I'm confused because I know suspension of disbelief exists, especially in this world, with what we have going on in this world, but I'm a little confused because they transform in public, and in the Go Busters side of things, they tried to make note, like, oh no, it was either Go Busters or SPD, or Deca Ranger. They acknowledged, oh no, don't you worry, we evacuated like the entire city, so you're totally good, man. They did that. In this case, I don't think they've said that aloud, at least as of yet. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait, why are we acting as if, Yellow's like, oh, I don't know who the Yellow Ranger is, teehee. And it's like, the mom has been reporting on this. She could literally have it on camera. Like, unless she's, messing with her daughter, which if I had a kid who was a Power Ranger, I would mess with them all the time. Do you understand how I would mess with my child if they were a Power Ranger? Oh my god, all the time. I'd be like, you should thank that Power Ranger. Thank you? No, say it louder. I don't think they can hear you. Thank you, Power Ranger. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Power Ranger. And also thank the mom or dad who pays the Power Rangers light bill when they leave the light on when they leave a room. Dad, I'm just saying, all right, maybe Power Rangers dad paid for a PS4, never uses it. Also cleans up all the dog poop. I don't know, just saying, maybe. I would mess with him consistently. So, oh, sorry, Dad, I have to go to the library tonight because a special school meeting, and I would just have them. And if they said like, oh yeah, we read a book, I would just talk to them about the book. Would I have read the book? No, but I'd read a small summary. I'd like go on Sparks Notes or something like that, if that still exists. And I would just see what the book is about. I'd be like, oh, you read that book altogether? That's so interesting. Please, tell me about the book, child. You read the book, didn't you? Why would you have not read the book? I mean, are you lying to me about something? Oh god, I would be terrible. I would be a terrible parent. But speaking of someone who's not a terrible parent, the parents in Power Rangers in general. Seriously, great parents. I like I said earlier, love seeing them, talk to their kids and help their kids through just daily life, just with their ideas. I know it's a TV show for families anyway, but still, you have no idea how they could have easily turned it into, well, your idea didn't work, so who cares? But no, they turned it into, you know what? Yes, the Power Rangers inadvertently made it cool, but the mayor also chimed in with it. It wasn't like, oh, well, whatever, guess it's not gonna work. No, like he was actually giving her advice, so giving Yellow advice. So really, I appreciate a lot about what this show is doing and what it's definitely doing for the kids who are watching, and hopefully a lot of people are watching this on TV or through, streaming services or things like that and aren't, missing out on a show like this, because I think that there are a lot of life lessons that don't seem like they're talking down to kids necessarily. So good stuff there. Also, so now we're moving on to episode 4, which Digital Deception, which I truly believe was going to be aired around Valentine's Day, but perhaps it got delayed, just like, many series do get delayed by like a month or two or something like that, because I've never seen, even though it does make sense in storyline that these two would be interacting like this, Ravi and Roxy on Valentine's Day, still, it just does not make sense to me that they would just randomly create a Valentine's Day episode, and then this series starts airing in May. Not in May, in March, if they weren't planning on putting this out maybe late January or early February. That's just my take on it. Not too sure, but I've never seen a holiday special that has been, a random holiday, even not like Christmas or a holiday one or something like that, but just other holidays that aren't as big in the U.S., aren't as commercialized. I mean, Valentine's Day pretty much is, but still, I've never seen them randomly get put into a show if the show was not meant to be somewhat near that time and was kind of delayed a little bit for some reason or another. So that's just my take on that, though. But I also, something else that was just my take on it, I didn't think Ravi and Roxy were together for that long, so maybe it was just the original flashback, but it seemed like she was like, oh, I'm into you. And he was like, oh, I'm not into you, but just hiding it. I didn't realize that they were actually together for long enough to snap that photo. Granted, they're teenagers, so it literally could have been like a week. But still, I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry. I was a teenager once, okay? And I was quote unquote in love once, all right? And it was like 2 weeks. So, just saying. They might have only been together for like the weekend. And then on Monday, he's like, you know what? I'm sorry, but we're Rangers, Roxy. I'm just saying. One thing I do want to mention, though, is that I wish we did not see Roxy talking about faking her feelings for Ravi in the beginning of the ep. I know that it was going to be, irregardless, it was going to be a twist that you could see coming from a mile away, but I still would have liked to have been tricked. Maybe they talked to some child psychologist or something, which usually happens with shows like this, and maybe they were like, no, we should not deceive the children. They will have trust issues. Do not deceive the children. But I would like to say that on record, you should deceive the children. Am I on record? This is being recorded and put online. All right. No, but I would have liked to have been, at least attempted to have been deceived, because when you have Ravi looking like this the entire episode, yes, I know the idea is you watching, you could feel like you're like, oh, come on, Ravi, like really, like you can see it from, coming from a mile away. But for me, it seemed like it would have been nice to have just a little bit of something to make me go, maybe she does, feel this way. But what I didn't realize is she was going to be able to turn him into or try to turn him into one of them, into an evil avatar on the spot. I thought she was going to just take it back to the lair, a bit like what Scrozzle did, and try to have it be part of some grand scheme or some, way to make better monsters or something like that. Didn't think that she was going to try to turn Ravi, although it's kind of very interesting because I know she was playing with his mind at that point, but I do wonder if somewhere she actually does care about him, but not him. Like, I do wonder if they were evil, she'd be like, dope. This is all dope. And if you're wondering, like, dope, really? Yes, the kids are saying that she would be throwing shade at others, and it would be, oh god, what other things? She would say that it was lit fam, that their new evil Evox fam is lit. And all this other, oh god, geez. I worked with high school kids for years and all as a debate coach, and so all of that slang is still with me, but thankfully I don't use it anymore, either ironically or for real, but it's still in there. So it's a bit like with what Ravi thought about Roxy, having some good in her. She didn't, but the slang still in there somewhere. Either way, it would be interesting if, I thought it would have been interesting, I have to say, if it would have been interesting foreshadowing, even though it would have been hard to put in this episode, maybe it'd have to be a two-parter, but it would have been interesting if she did convert him, or at least a small portion, and then they had to find a way to get rid of that Ravi, even if it was just a short one episode thing, because then that foreshadows and shows you, oh wait, we can do this in the future. Because I don't want their turning back to the good side, which I assume is going to happen towards the end of this season. I don't want that to just pop up out of nowhere. I do hope that there is some, it's not just a technobabble thing like with episode 3, I do hope that, or episode 2 rather, I hope that it does come from a place that, that has been built for a bit. So some kind of, explanation that makes sense in canon in some way or another. I know technobabble is always going to be technobabble, but still, it would be nice. So I would hope that it would have been cool to see that happen to him potentially, even just for a bit, and to show that maybe she does have a heart just for evil, and see where that could go. But either way, also something that I noticed in episode 4, and again, it's not the actor's fault, it's just something, it might have been, episode 3 and 4. Whoever is editing the episodes, and by the way, remember, I want everyone to remember, whoever's editing these episodes, they're getting paid. I'm not. And they're professionals at this, and I'm not. But it feels as if they stood on certain scenes for a bit too long, where I think they could have cut it short. And look, I'm just the guy who does stuff on YouTube, but I've noticed that with some of my previous work. And again, I'm not a big fancy pants here, but I'm just saying that the scene in episode 3 where Yellow was standing there like, "Oh, thanks, Mom." I know it's supposed to be a shock to us, but it seemed like she just kind of stood there, and it was like a cut, like an act, like they were supposed to cut earlier and they didn't. I know they have to fit a certain runtime and stuff like that. They have to fit that, but it was still odd. And then in this case, when Roxy is trying to turn Ravi evil, they just were on that shot for a bit before the Rangers were taken out. Like, I sat there and I was like, shouldn't have he just been turned? Like, it was strange. And again, maybe it's just an issue with runtime, where they were like, you know what, we've cut everything up a certain way, we're using this footage and we're using it like this because dang it, we have to fit these commercial breaks. I get it. It was just odd. Also something that's interesting, and this might just be something with the budget, but it was also kind of fun to see. Whenever Roxy was talking to Ravi and pretending to be this good person, she didn't glitch. And it was kind of funny to see. And again, like, it probably was just the fact that the way the shot was being done and the fact that she's holding on to Ravi's arm, so, they don't want to have to edit that because that's a lot of work. I know they can do it, but that's money and that's time. So I'm wondering if it was a situation where they were trying to show, like, but she's good because she's not, that's the good her that she claims to be because she's not glitching. I was wondering if they were doing that. If so, that was actually a nice little touch. If not, well, now that's canon because I'm a guy who said that on the internet. And if people are talking about a show that they like on the internet, it just becomes canon. So I'm sorry, people who are being paid to write Power Rangers. Apparently what I've said is now canon. So I'm sorry to tell you guys. It's the truth. It's just how the internet works. No other opinion can actually override whatever I like. That's just how it is. Sorry. Also, before we wrap this thing up, I have to say something, and this might be the biggest plot twist if it does come to pass. I mentioned the mom, the reporter before being Yellow's mom, but this might be a true Shyamalanian twist if it does occur. I think the bee is working with Evox. I do. No, I do. That's not, that you'd stop laughing. The bee is working with Evox. It's just the truth, damn it. And we're going to get to the bottom of this. Hopefully, we'll see what goes on throughout the series. Maybe the bee will make a return. Or the bees, there were 2 of them. That was even worse. They're multiplying. And we're going to see what happens. I mean, it's a sterile work environment. It's supposed to be sterile. And now these bees are going to come in here and kill the power. I don't know. It's gonna suck or something. Oh no. Oh no. Someone's gonna get into one of those pods to try to become a ranger, or they're going to try to get Roxy and Blaze back, and then one of the bees is gonna come in. Bam! Jeff Goldblum's The Fly. It's gonna be just like that, except with bees. Totally. That's just how it works. Look, I'm not saying that I write the show. I'm just saying that whatever I say is now officially canon. So. But alright guys, so before we wrap this one up, I want to say which one was my favorite episode out of the 3. It's very hard to say because I want to go with episode 4 due to the fact that we got to see a lot more personality from Roxy, and that was great, but I think I'm going to go for episode 2. Just the introduction of all of the, like the buddy roids, again, the US buddy roids and all of his other stuff, and how they weaved it in so well, in my opinion. I think it worked, and I think that one was definitely my favorite out of these three. Now, I think episode 1 is still my favorite out of these 4, and I'm not going to bring up episode 1 in future reviews. Usually just going to try to bring up the episodes that I'll be reviewing, which next time I do a review of Beast Morphers, it'll be 5 to 8. But I gotta say, though, I think 2 really did something that I didn't expect it to do, which was be as good as episode 1. Again, little issues here and there. I do think that before the explanation, just the fact that that Red froze at the dog, I was kind of a little like, I don't know. I was confused at first a little bit until I remembered that it happened in Go Busters as well, and then again they explained it, so it quote-unquote made sense from a technobabble perspective. But either way, though, guys, I want to hear what your favorite episode out of these, not even just these 3, but even these latest 4, what your favorite episode is down below. Tell me any theories you have about the future of not only Beast Morphers, but also Power Rangers in general. Would love to hear what you guys have to say about all of this, and maybe perhaps you're watching this through our TG Productions YouTube channel, so you can actually do this in the comment section down below, but you could be listening to this through the link from our Patreon, patreon.com/TGProductions. Depending on what tier you give to, you get access to every single episode of TokuStation that I have ever done, be it a review or when I was talking about the news, and I still do episodes where I talk about the news as well. If you are accessing it through there, then please, all of these questions that I brought up down below, during the episode, please talk about them to me via our Twitter, @ThoseGuysRadio, or even our Facebook, facebook.com/ThoseGuysOnTheRadio. Talk to us anywhere you'd like to. Any of our social media accounts, please have a blast. Would love to talk to you guys about Power Rangers in the near future. So, love you all. Take care, and tune in next time for another episode of TokuStation. All right, guys. So, see ya.